1.82 billion cans. That is how many sardines the world goes through in a single year. 92 countries trade them. The United States alone eats 243 million tins, more than 1,600 brands fighting for shelf space. 200 years ago, soldiers ripped those same tins open with bayonets because nobody had invented a can opener yet. The fish inside did not even have a proper name. Today, the canned sardine industry moves nearly $10 billion a year. Collectors age tins like fine wine and sell them for $30 each. But here is something that might surprise you. After nearly 2 centuries and almost 2 billion cans a year, nobody has agreed on what a sardine actually is. Because sardine is not a species, it never was. 22 different species of fish can legally be labeled sardine. In Portugal, it is a fat pilchard, 3 to 5 per tin. In Norway, it is a brisling from a fjord. On the American East Coast, what they called sardines for over a century were actually herring. France sued multiple countries between 1911 and 1915 to protect the word. One in Europe, lost in North America. American sardines are still herring. The global canned seafood market hit $35.7 billion in 2024. The U.S. tinned fish market, $2.7 billion. Projected to pass $11 billion by 2027. 22 species, 0 consensus. But every single one gets canned the same way. Here is the thing nobody tells you. It starts at night. Sardines rise to the surface after dark to feed on plankton. So the boats go out with spotlights and giant nets that close around the school like a drawstring bag. Silverfish thrashing under floodlights on black water. The catch goes straight into saltwater tanks on the boat, keeps the flesh firm during transport. By the time the sun comes up, the fish are already headed to the cannery. At the factory, they get sorted by size. Size determines which tin they fit. Heads and guts come off in large operations by machine. At artisanal factories like Pinhais in Portugal, still by hand. 40+ steps, entirely manual. Workers move through each fish with a speed that looks mechanical, but is not. The air smells like salt water and fresh metal. Wet concrete floors, fluorescent light. Here is what makes sardines different from almost every other canned fish. Tuna gets cooked before canning, then cooked again inside the tin. Sardines skip that first step. The fish go into the tin raw. They cook only once, inside the sealed can. Workers line fish into tins by hand or machine, fitted tight, layered with precision. Oil, sauce, or brine get poured over the raw fish. The lid clicks shut, airtight. No air gets in from this point forward. Then the tins go into a retort, basically a giant pressure cooker. 118 degrees Celsius, 30 minutes. Pressure high enough that you would not want to stand next to it if something cracked. Steam hissing from the valves, dense, humid air filling the room. That single step does 3 things at once. It kills everything alive inside the tin, every last bacterium. It cooks the flesh, and it softens the bones until they are completely edible. The spine, the ribs, all of it. Every sardine you have ever eaten, you ate the bones too. The heat dissolved them into the flesh. Check the ingredients on your next tin. There is no deboned anywhere. After the retort, cold water pours over the tins to stop the cooking. Temperature drops to around 40 degrees. Done. The fish can now sit on a shelf for years without refrigeration. At places like Pinhais, the tins age a minimum of 3 months before shipping. Oil, spices, and fish need time to marry. Some producers hold tins for 4 years or more. Vintage sardines, aged like wine. What comes out is a sealed product that can last years on a shelf, opened with the same key mechanism patented in 1866. Still the standard. That is the process today. But none of it existed 200 years ago. Putting food in a sealed container started because one man offered a fortune to solve a military problem, and the guy who solved it had no idea why his solution worked. 1795. Napoleon had an army that moved faster than its food. Meat rotted, bread molded. He offered 12,000 francs, roughly $300,000 today, to anyone who could figure out how to keep food from spoiling. A French candy maker named Nicolas Appert spent 14 years trying. Glass jars, heat, wax seals. He won the prize in 1809. The twist, Appert had no idea why his method actually worked. He thought air was the enemy, so he sealed it out. Turned out the real enemy was bacteria, but nobody knew that yet. By accident. Sealing out the air also sealed out the bacteria. A man who got the science wrong still changed how the world eats. A year later, an Englishman named Peter Durand patented the tin canister. This is where the word canning comes from. But Durand admitted the idea came from a friend abroad, a French inventor who never got the credit. And the tin had a problem. It was thick, heavy, no pull tab, no key, no opener. Early British military rations just said, cut round the top with a chisel and hammer. For 48 years, people had cans and no good way to open them. 1834, sardines first canned in Nantes, France. By 1880, the region produced 50 million tins a year. Then in 1840, a French sailboat wrecked off the coast of Spain. The Spaniards pulled canned sardines from the cargo, figured out how they were made, and built their entire canned seafood industry from a shipwreck. Here is where the story flips. In the 1940s, Monterey, California called itself the sardine capital of the world. 30 canneries on one street, 700,000 tons a year. Then the fish vanished. Overfishing and shifting ocean currents wiped them out. The canneries closed one by one. The last shut down in 1973. The sardine did not come back for 40 years. Steinbeck wrote a novel about that street. They renamed it after his book. The building where the last cannery stood is now the Monterey Bay Aquarium. The fish that built Cannery Row and killed it is the same one in your pantry. But the strangest part of this story is still coming. Napoleon's army is gone. Cannery Row is an aquarium. The canneries of Nantes are museums. But the sardine is still here. 22 names, no real identity, and nearly 2 billion cans a year. Every empire built around this fish eventually collapsed. The fish never did. But the people who understand sardines best, the collectors in Stavanger who gathered 33,000 tin labels, the hand packers at Pinhei's who have done 40 steps per tin for 100 years, Layla Anderson who worked 55 years at the last American cannery. For them, it was never about trends or empires. It was just work. They showed up the next morning and did it again. Open it. The key turns. Metal curls back. Thick golden oil catches the light. A faint smell of wood smoke. Fish soft enough to fall apart at a fork. Bones gone. Just flavor and time. A fish with no name. In a tin designed for war. Aged like something precious. That is the sardine. 22 species. Nearly 2 billion cans a year. And in all that time, nobody has ever agreed on what a sardine actually is. Nobody ever asks which fish is inside. That is the process. We reveal how things actually work, one story at a time. If there is something you would like us to explore next, let us know. Until then, trust the process.